They say a mother's love knows no bounds, but they never tell you what happens when that love collides with a world that refuses to understand your child. The day I found my 10-year-old son Ethan sitting by his bedroom window, clutching a handmade birthday card covered in drawings of spaceships and robots, tears streaming down his face as he watched other kids from his class arrive at Noah's house across the street for a party he wasn't invited to, something inside me shattered into pieces so sharp they could cut through steel. The card in Ethan's hands was a masterpiece of childhood innocence. He had spent 3 days working on it, meticulously drawing each detail of the International Space Station, adding specifications he'd memorized from his favorite astronomy books. The robot he'd drawn next to it had articulated joints that he'd labeled with arrows and technical terms he'd learned from YouTube videos. This was how my son expressed love, through precision and passion, through facts and figures that made sense in his beautifully different mind. I knelt beside him, my hand gently touching his shoulder. He didn't pull away like he sometimes did when overwhelmed. Instead, he leaned into me, his body shaking with silent sobs. Through the window, we could see cars pulling up to the Hayes residence, children jumping out with wrapped presents, their laughter carrying across the suburban street like salt in our wounds. Noah had been Ethan's only real friend. They had bonded over their shared love of science and space exploration. I remembered the countless afternoons they'd spent in our garage, building model rockets and programming simple robots using the kit I'd bought for Ethan's birthday. Noah never seemed to mind when Ethan flapped his hands in excitement or went on lengthy monologues about the chemical composition of rocket fuel. He simply listened, asked questions, and shared his own enthusiasm. But that was before Victoria Thorne decided my son wasn't normal enough for her social circle. I pulled Ethan closer, feeling his heartbeat against my chest, rapid and distressed. "Maybe Noah forgot to give you the invitation," I suggested weakly, knowing even as the words left my mouth how hollow they sounded. Ethan shook his head. "No, Mom. Tommy said Noah's mom said I couldn't come. He heard her talking to his mom at pickup yesterday." His voice was matter of fact, the way it always was when he reported information, but I could hear the confusion underneath. "She said I make the other kids uncomfortable." The rage that flooded through me in that moment was primal, volcanic, but I kept my voice steady. "You don't make anyone uncomfortable, sweetheart. Some people just don't understand how amazing you are." That evening, after I'd finally gotten Ethan to eat something and settled him with his favorite documentary about the Mars rovers, I opened Facebook with trembling fingers. There it was, plastered across my feed like a deliberate slap in the face. Victoria Thorne had posted a photo album titled Noah's Epic 10th Birthday Bash at Space Arcade. The images showed every single boy from Ethan's class. Every single one, except mine. They were all there in matching party hats, gathered around an elaborate space-themed cake that must have cost more than my monthly car payment. Noah stood in the center, surrounded by friends, his smile bright, but something in his eyes looked forced, almost sad. I scrolled through the comments, each one a twist of the knife. "Best party ever. Thanks for including Tyler. So glad our boys are friends." And then Victoria's response to each one, syrupy sweet and deliberately public. "We wanted to keep it intimate with just Noah's closest friends." 23 boys. Intimate. My fingers flew across my phone screen, typing a text to Victoria. I deleted it. Typed another. Deleted that too. Finally, I settled on, "Hi, Victoria. I noticed Ethan wasn't invited to Noah's party. The boys have been such good friends. Was there a mix-up with the invitation?" The typing indicator appeared immediately, then disappeared. Appeared again. The response came 5 minutes later. "Hi, Sarah. No mix-up. We decided to keep the party small. You understand?" Small. 23 boys. Every boy in the class except mine. I called her. She answered on the third ring, her voice dripping with false concern. "Sarah, hi, I was just about to call you back." "Victoria, what's going on? Ethan and Noah have been best friends all year. Ethan made him a special birthday card. He's devastated." There was a pause, then a sigh that sounded rehearsed. Look, Sarah, I'm going to be honest with you because I think you deserve that. Some of the other parents have expressed concerns about Ethan's behavior. The hand flapping, the meltdowns, the way he doesn't always pick up on social cues. We wanted Noah's party to have a certain energy. Energy? My voice was dangerously quiet. Normal energy, she clarified, and I could practically hear her shrug through the phone. You know how it is. We just wanted the kids to be able to relax and have fun without having to worry about accommodating anyone. Accommodating? He's a 10-year-old boy, not a burden to be accommodated. I know this is hard to hear, but frankly, your son makes the other children uncomfortable. The parents have noticed it too. Maybe it would be better if you focused on finding him friends who are more like him. Like him? You mean autistic? If you want to put a label on it. Her voice had turned cold now, the false sympathy evaporating. I'm doing what's best for my son and his friends. You should accept reality and stop trying to force Ethan into situations where he doesn't fit. He's a child, Victoria, a brilliant, kind, loving child who happens to see the world differently. That's a nice way to put it, but the fact remains that he's disruptive. The stimming, the obsessive talking about his interests, the meltdowns when things don't go according to his routine, it affects the other children's experience. When has Ethan ever had a meltdown at a social event? Name one time. Silence. Then, it's not about specific incidents. It's about the overall dynamic. Look, I need to go. I hope you can understand we're all just doing what's best for our children. No, Victoria, you're doing what's best for your image. There's a difference. She laughed. Actually laughed. You can think whatever makes you feel better. But at the end of the day, this is my son's party, and I decide who's invited. Maybe focus on getting Ethan the help he clearly needs instead of trying to force him into spaces where he's not wanted. The line went dead. I stood there, phone in my hand, shaking with rage. From the living room, I could hear David Attenborough's soothing voice narrating something about perseverance on Mars. I peeked in to check on Ethan. He had fallen asleep on the couch, his face still puffy from crying. The birthday card for Noah clutched to his chest. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the conversation, each word of Victoria's cutting deeper than the last. Around 2 a.m., I opened my laptop and started typing an email to the school principal, then deleted it. What would I say? That my son wasn't invited to a birthday party? It seemed so trivial and yet so monumentally cruel. The next morning was Saturday, and Ethan woke up asking if we could deliver Noah's birthday card. I don't think that's a good idea, sweetheart, I said gently. But I made it for him. It has the specifications for the new Mars rover. Noah wanted to know about the soil analysis equipment. How could I explain to my literal-minded son that friendship, real friendship, had been sacrificed on the altar of his supposed abnormality? That his neurodivergence had been deemed too inconvenient for a birthday party? Let's mail it, I suggested. That way Noah can open it when he has time to really look at it. Ethan considered this with his characteristic seriousness, then nodded. That's logical. He can examine the technical drawings without distraction. We walked to the corner mailbox together, Ethan carefully placing the card inside after checking 3 times that he'd written the address correctly. As we walked back, he suddenly asked, "Mom, what does normal energy mean?" My heart stopped. Where did you hear that? You were on the phone yesterday. Your voice was loud. I wasn't trying to eavesdrop, but auditory processing is automatic, not voluntary. He paused, then added, "Is my energy abnormal?" I stopped walking and turned to face him, taking his hands in mine even though I knew he might pull away. He didn't. "Ethan, listen to me. There is nothing wrong with your energy. You experience joy and excitement and curiosity more intensely than some people, and that's not a flaw. It's part of what makes you extraordinary." "But Mrs. Thorne thinks it's wrong." "Mrs. Thorne is incorrect. Just like when Tommy said that spiders have 6 legs and you corrected him. Remember? Just because someone says something doesn't make it true. He processed this for a moment. But multiple people seem to agree with her hypothesis about my abnormality. In science, when multiple observations support a hypothesis, we consider it more likely to be accurate. Oh, my brilliant, logical boy. How could I explain that sometimes people's hypotheses were based on prejudice, not observation? Sometimes. Ethan, people make observations based on incomplete data or flawed assumptions, like when everyone thought the Earth was flat because they couldn't see the curve. Were they right? No. They lacked the proper vantage point and instruments. Exactly. Some people lack the proper vantage point to see how wonderful you are. That's their limitation, not yours. The weekend passed in a blur of normal activities that felt anything but normal. Ethan built a new LEGO set, organized his rock collection by mineral composition, and watched 3 documentaries about space exploration. But I caught him looking out the window several times, watching the Hayes house with an expression I couldn't quite read. Sunday evening. My phone rang. It was Daniel Hayes, Noah's father. He rarely called, usually leaving the social arrangements to Victoria. Sarah, I need to talk to you. His voice was strained, urgent. Can we meet tomorrow? Without Victoria knowing? My pulse quickened. Of course. Where? The coffee shop on 3rd Street? 10 o'clock? I'll be there. That night, I barely slept again, wondering what Daniel could possibly want to discuss in secret. When I arrived at the coffee shop the next morning after dropping Ethan at school, Daniel was already there, hunched over a cup of coffee in a back corner booth. He looked haggard, like he hadn't slept either. Sarah, I'm sorry about the party. He started immediately. I was in Chicago for work. I didn't know until I got home and Noah. He paused, rubbing his face. Noah was crying in his room. He had hidden Ethan's card under his pillow. He told me his mom said Ethan couldn't come, that he was different and would ruin the party. I felt a mix of vindication and sorrow. I'm sorry Noah was upset. That's not all. Daniel pulled out his phone, his hands shaking slightly. Victoria has a group chat. She calls it Mom's Elite. I happened to see it when a notification popped up on her iPad. Sarah, the things they're saying about Ethan. He slid the phone across to me. Screenshots of messages filled the screen. My blood ran cold as I read. Victoria. Had to exclude the Peterson kid from Noah's party. That child gives me the creeps. Melissa Chen. Thank God. He's so weird. The hand flapping thing is disturbing. Chloe Martinez. My Emma says he talks to himself at recess. Serial killer vibes. Victoria. I've been documenting everything, building a case to have him removed from the regular classroom. Jennifer Walsh. Good. Our kids shouldn't have to deal with that. Victoria. Look at this. The next screenshot was a photo. Victoria had taken a picture of Ethan standing alone during recess, examining something in his hands, probably a rock or interesting leaf he'd found. The caption read, "Lurking as usual. This kid seriously creeps me out." The responses were worse. OMG, he looks like a school shooter. Why isn't he in special ed? His mom is delusional if she thinks he's normal. Feel sorry for Noah having to deal with him. My hands were shaking so badly I had to put the phone down. How long has this been going on? I don't know. Weeks? Months? There's more. He swiped to another screenshot. She's been coordinating with other parents to exclude Ethan from group projects, study groups, everything. She's even contacted the PTA about having him removed from the general education classroom. I felt like I couldn't breathe. She's orchestrating a campaign against my 10-year-old son. Sarah, I'm divorcing her. The words came out in a rush. This isn't the only reason, but it's the final straw. She's turned into someone I don't recognize. Or maybe I'm finally seeing who she really is. Does she know? Not yet. I need to get my ducks in a row first. But I wanted you to have this evidence. Document everything. And Sarah? He met my eyes. I'm going to make sure no one knows that Ethan is always welcome in my home, wherever that ends up being. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing. By the time I picked up Ethan from school, I had made a decision. I wasn't going to let Victoria Thorne destroy my son's spirit. That afternoon, I called my cousin Jake Miller. Jake was a private investigator, a former detective who'd left the force to start his own firm. I need your help, I said without preamble when he answered. What's wrong? A woman is targeting my son, Ethan. She's organizing other parents to ostracize him because he's autistic. I need to know everything about Victoria Thorne. Send me what you have. I'll start digging immediately. While Jake worked his magic, I started my own documentation. I emailed his teacher, Mr. Chen, requesting a meeting about Ethan's social experiences at school. I contacted the school counselor. I reached out to other parents I thought might be allies, carefully feeling out their positions. The response from Mr. Chen came quickly. I've been concerned about some dynamics I've observed. Let's definitely meet. 2 days later, I sat across from Mr. Chen in his classroom after school. Ethan. Tactics escalated. Ethan showed up at the hospital where I worked, demanding to speak with me. Security had to escort him out when he began shouting in the lobby about family loyalty and my selfishness. Stella sent a package of photos of her children with a note saying, "Your niece and nephew miss their aunt who used to care about family." The emotional manipulation was transparent now that I wasn't drowning in it. Dr. Eris had taught me to recognize these patterns, to see the strings they were trying to pull. They're experiencing what's called an extinction burst, she explained. When a behavior that has always worked suddenly stops working, people often escalate before they give up. They're throwing everything they can think of at you because they can't believe their golden goose has actually flown away. The golden goose was not just gone, she was soaring. My patient care program was approved and funded, earning me a promotion to nursing supervisor and a $30,000 salary increase. My investment portfolio was performing better than I had dared to hope. I had money in savings for the first time in my adult life, money that I knew would still be there tomorrow because I wasn't going to give it away to people who saw me as nothing more than a source of funds. But the real changes were deeper than financial success. I started saying no to things I didn't want to do, whether it was picking up extra shifts to help understaffed colleagues who never returned the favor, or attending work social events where I felt obligated to spend money I couldn't afford on people I didn't particularly like. I learned to enjoy my own company, to eat dinner alone at expensive restaurants without feeling self-conscious, to go to movies I wanted to see even if I couldn't find anyone to go with me. I discovered that I loved art museums, something I had never had time to explore when every free moment was spent worrying about my family's next crisis. I became a member of the city's modern art museum and spent Saturday afternoons wandering through galleries, learning about artists whose names I had never heard, but whose work spoke to something deep inside me. The loneliness I had expected never came. Instead, I found myself surrounded by people who appreciated me for legally? Not without cause. And from what you've told me, they have none. Ethan's grades are excellent. He has no behavioral issues, and he's meeting all academic standards. This is discrimination, plain and simple. The meeting was scheduled for Friday. I had 3 days to prepare. Jake promised to have preliminary information by Thursday. Wednesday night, Ethan came home from school quieter than usual. When I asked about his day, he said, "We had to pick partners for the science fair. Nobody picked me." What did Mr. Chen do? He assigned me to work with the new student, Marcus. Marcus seems nice. He likes astronomy too. Small mercies. But I could see the hurt in his eyes. "Ethan, can I ask you something? Have kids said mean things to you at school?" He considered the question with his usual precision. "Tommy said I'm weird. Emma said her mom told her not to play with me. Chloe laughed at me when I was excited about the Mars rover landing." He paused. "But Marcus said they're idiots who wouldn't recognize genius if it calculated their orbital trajectory." I almost laughed despite my anger. Marcus sounds like a good friend. He might be. We need more data points to establish a pattern of friendship. Thursday afternoon, Jake called. Sarah, you sitting down? What did you find? Victoria Thorne isn't who she pretends to be. That successful event planning business? It's hemorrhaging money. She's been using PTA funds to prop it up. Small amounts, but consistent. I also found 3 former clients who filed complaints with the Better Business Bureau. And here's the kicker. She was asked to leave her previous school district after similar incidents with another special needs family. Are you serious? Dead serious. The family moved rather than fight it, but I tracked them down. They're willing to talk to you. And Sarah? There's more. She's having an affair. Has been for months. Daniel suspected as much. Yeah, well, I have photos. And hotel receipts she charged to the PTA credit card. This was bigger than I'd imagined. Send me everything. Already done. Sarah, be careful. When cornered, people like Victoria get vicious. He was right. The next morning, Friday, I woke to find my car tires slashed. All 4 of them. There was no proof it was Victoria, but the timing was too coincidental. I called the police, filed a report, and then called an Uber to get Ethan to school. Why would someone hurt our car? Ethan asked, genuinely puzzled. Sometimes people do bad things when they're angry or scared, I said carefully. That's illogical. Damaging our car doesn't solve whatever problem they perceive. You're absolutely right. It is illogical. The meeting that afternoon was an ambush, just as Amanda had predicted. Victoria was there with 2 other mothers from her mom's elite group, Melissa and Chloe. Dr. Martinez looked uncomfortable. Mr. Chen was present, as was Mrs. Rodriguez, the district's special education coordinator. Victoria smiled at me, a predator's smile. Sarah, we're all here because we care about Ethan. Cut the crap, Amanda said before I could respond. We know exactly why we're here. You've orchestrated a harassment campaign against a 10-year-old child. Victoria's smile faltered. I don't know what you're talking about. We have legitimate concerns about classroom disruption. I pulled out my folder, thick with screenshots, documentation, and reports. I laid them out methodically on the table, just like Ethan would have, precise and organized. Text messages calling my son creepy and comparing him to a serial killer. And here's my favorite part, I said, flipping to a section marked with bright yellow tabs. These are all the family events I was excluded from, either because you said you couldn't afford to include me, or because you simply chose not to invite me. I pulled out photographs I had printed from their social media accounts. Stella's bachelorette party in Vegas, which happened the same week you told me you couldn't afford to help with my nursing school graduation celebration. Ethan's birthday dinner at that steakhouse that cost $200 per person, which took place 2 days after you asked me to lend you money for groceries. The family reunion in Colorado that I wasn't invited to because you said it was too expensive. But here's a photo of all of you skiing at Aspen. We can explain all of this, Dad said desperately. You don't understand the full situation. Oh, but I do understand, I replied, walking to the wall-to-wall windows that offered a commanding view of the city below. I understand that I was never your daughter. I was your insurance policy, your emergency fund, your personal ATM who never required a PIN code because I was so eager to prove my worth through my willingness to sacrifice. I pulled a cord, and heavy drapes slid back to reveal a second window that looked down on a different part of the city. There, several blocks away, was their old house, the one where I had spent my childhood, where I had learned that my value was measured entirely by my usefulness to others. Do you see that house down there? I asked. I bought it last month. They followed my gaze, and I saw the moment of recognition dawn on their faces. I'm going to tear it down, I continued calmly, and build a residential facility for young adults who have been financially and emotionally exploited by their families, a place where they can get therapy, job training, and most importantly, Learn that their worth isn't contingent on what they can provide for other people. Mom burst into tears. But they weren't the manipulative tears I remembered from my childhood. These were, continued, the systematic exclusion of a student, particularly one with documented special needs, is a serious matter. Mister, Chen spoke up. I've documented 17 separate incidents this semester alone where Ethan was deliberately excluded or targeted. I've also noted that his academic performance exceeds grade level in all subjects, and he has never had a single behavioral incident requiring intervention. This is ridiculous! Victoria stood up. You're all being manipulated by her sob story. That child is abnormal and doesn't belong in a regular classroom. The room went silent. Even her allies looked shocked. Dr. Martinez's voice was ice cold. Mrs. Thorne, I'm going to need you to leave school property immediately. Your position as PTA president is suspended pending investigation, and you are banned from all school events until further notice. You can't do this. I can, and I am. Mrs. Rodriguez, please escort Mrs. Thorne out. As Victoria was led out, she turned to me, her face twisted with rage. This isn't over. Yes, I said quietly. It is. The fallout was swift and brutal. That evening, someone posted about the meeting on the school's unofficial Facebook page. By morning, it had over 300 comments. Parents were divided, but as more people came forward with their own stories of Victoria's bullying and manipulation, the tide turned decisively. Daniel filed for divorce on Monday, citing infidelity and emotional abuse of their son. He had recorded Noah crying, begging not to have to exclude Ethan anymore, saying his mom would punish him if he played with his friend. Tuesday brought an emergency PTA meeting. The auditorium was packed. Victoria arrived looking haggard, designer clothes wrinkled, makeup smeared. She'd clearly been crying. Parent after parent stood up to speak. A father whose daughter had been excluded from Victoria's inner circle for having ADHD. A mother. Did you couldn't understand why I would choose my own happiness over your comfort? Ethan fell to his knees then, grabbing my hands with his trembling fingers. Luna, please. I know I screwed up. We all screwed up. But I'm homeless. I'm living in my car. I haven't eaten a real meal in 3 days. I looked down at him without emotion. And whose fault is that? Ethan? Weak. Noah showed up at our door on Saturday morning, Daniel beside him. Can Ethan come out to play? Noah asked, just like he used to. Ethan appeared behind me, his face lighting up with pure joy. Not the subdued, careful expression he'd been wearing lately, but real, unfiltered happiness. I brought my rocket kit, Noah said. The one you helped me design. Want to launch it? Ethan flapped his hands, bouncing on his toes. Yes, yes. Did you adjust the fin angle like I suggested? It should increase stability by approximately 12%. Noah grinned. I did exactly what you said. Come on. As the boys ran off to the backyard, Daniel lingered. Thank you, he said simply. For standing up to her. For protecting your son. For showing me what she really was. How's Noah handling everything? Better now that he can be himself again. He told me yesterday that Ethan is his best friend because he never pretends things are interesting when they're not. That's a pretty profound thing for a 10-year-old to articulate. Over the following months, life slowly returned to a new normal. Victoria moved away after the divorce was finalized and her business collapsed. The Moms Elite group disbanded, with several members approaching me to apologize, claiming they'd been caught up in Victoria's influence. I didn't accept their apologies. Mob mentality was no excuse for cruelty toward a child. Ethan continued to thrive. His friendship with Noah deepened, and Marcus became a regular addition to their duo. The three of them entered the science fair together, creating a working model of a Mars habitat that won first place. During his presentation, Ethan flapped his hands with excitement as he explained the atmospheric processing system. Not a single person in the audience looked uncomfortable. They were too busy being amazed by his knowledge and passion. Mr. Chen pulled me aside afterward. You know what's remarkable? The other kids have started mimicking some of Ethan's behaviors. When they get excited about something, they'll do little hand flaps and say, I'm pulling an Ethan. He's normalizing neurodivergence just by being himself. 6 months after the confrontation, I received an unexpected email. It was from Victoria. Sarah, I've been in therapy since everything happened. I'm writing to apologize, not to ask for forgiveness, but because you deserve to hear it. I was projecting my own insecurities and fears onto your son. My parents always demanded perfection, punished difference. I became what I hated. I'm deeply sorry for the pain I caused Ethan and you. I've enclosed a donation to the Autism Advocacy Network in Ethan's name. I hope he continues to shine exactly as he is. Victoria, I stared at the email for a long time. Then I deleted it. Some bridges, once burned, don't need rebuilding. A year later, at the school's end-of-year assembly, Ethan received the Science Achievement Award. As he walked to the stage, his unique gait unchanged, his hands moving in small flutters of nervousness and excitement, the entire auditorium erupted in applause. He stood at the microphone, looked out at the audience, and said in his clear, precise voice, "Thank you for this award. I want to share it with my friends Noah and Marcus, who helped me remember that being different isn't something to hide. It's something that makes our scientific observations more complete." Later that evening, as I tucked him into bed, Ethan asked, "Mom, remember when I asked you what normal energy meant?" "I remember. I think I understand now. Normal is just a setting on a washing machine. People aren't washing machines. We're more like stars. Each one burns differently, but they're all made of the same cosmic dust." I kissed his forehead, my eyes burning with tears. "When did you get so wise?" "It's not wisdom," he said seriously. "It's just observation and logical conclusion." That night, I stood in his doorway watching him sleep, his beloved space books scattered around his bed, his robot projects lining the shelves. He wasn't the child I'd expected when I first held him 10 years ago. He was so much more. Victoria Thorne had tried to dim his light because it didn't shine the way she expected. But stars don't dim themselves for anyone's comfort. They burn as they're meant to burn, brilliant and unique against the darkness. My son had taught me that. My beautiful, brilliant, autistic son who saw the world in wavelengths others couldn't perceive. He didn't need to be normal. He needed to be Ethan. And that was more than enough. It was extraordinary.